What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lexi J Wellness Podcast. I am Lexi Johnson, and this is my husband and co-host, Brett Johnson. So we wanted to switch things up a little bit this week. We're kind of toying around with the idea of throwing some lighthearted things in there every now and then. Just that way we're not constantly talking about self-development and all of those things, which are extremely important to us, but it's fun to engage with you guys and hear your opinions. So we decided we're going to start doing You In or You Out? And in these episodes, we're just going to debate, we might agree, who knows, some unpopular opinions, controversial topics. It's going to be lighthearted, so we were just Googling some random things, and we've got some topics that we're going to hit on, and we're going to see if you're in or if you're out. And we'll talk about our stances on these things, why we believe them, and again, it's going to be, pretty superficial. We're filming this on Valentine's Day, and my initial topic idea, I was like, well, you in or you out on Valentine's Day? Because obviously, Brett just got home from work. We're recording this, and this is our Valentine's Day. So my initial reaction is obviously we're out. But Brett was saying, he was like, well, who would be out on Valentine's Day? as if we're doing anything memorable or anything
that's fair,
noteworthy. But it was just funny because your knee-jerk reaction was like, of course I'm in on Valentine's Day. Why wouldn't I be? As you're just sitting on the couch and we're recording a podcast. That's Valentine's Day behavior. Okay, so anyway, the first topic, are you in or you out? Chicken is better than steak.
I'm definitely out. And I know that you're not a steak person because you're not a lot of different food type person, but steak, I think if you have any sort of if you have a palate, like a normal person's palate, I feel like steak has much more flavor than chicken. Chicken is chicken. And I love chicken. I'm not saying that I don't like chicken. I have chicken probably. Well, not even probably. I do have more chicken than I have steak. But steak is better than chicken. It has more fat content. It's more rich. It's more flavorful. There's different options. You can use steaks in a lot of different ways. So I think that is not even a conversation to be had.
Yeah, this is my unpopular opinion, but I don't like red meat. I never have. And it has nothing to do with a deeper meaning aside from the fact that I just have never enjoyed the smell or the taste. To this day, I am 26 and a half years old, and I've tried one hamburger in my entire life, and it was because I lost a bet to the high school football team. I really thought that they were going to lose, but they pulled out a win, and I had to eat a McDonald's hamburger. There's some video on Facebook way, way back, but I'm a chicken girl. I also feel like I do have a weird palate. Admittedly, I will be the first to tell you I've got a weird palate, but I prefer things drier. I'm not a condiment gal, so juicy steaks, no, I don't even put ranch on my salads more often than not. So I prefer pretty dry foods. I like my chicken a little bit drier, which normally most people are looking for the juicy meat.
That's a whole nother in or out situation. Steak is best whenever it's cooked medium rare.
I couldn't even form an opinion on that.
Yeah, that's not really a good debate between you and I because you wouldn't really have any input there. But yeah, if you cook your steak if you cook your steak well done, then I feel like you've just defeated the purpose of cooking a steak. You just basically took out all the flavor out of it and you just dried out a good piece of meat.
From the outside looking in, I feel like there's a lot of judgment within the steak community.
It gets pretty snobby.
It's very snobby. It's almost like it's a masculinity scale.
The barbecue world, it's a very snobby place if you really get into the weeds of it.
Yeah, I again couldn't form an opinion on the rareness of a steak, but I can tell from the outside looking in that if you say well done, you're gonna get shit on.
If that's the way you like it, then more power to you. But yeah, you're definitely gonna get shit on it.
But I feel like if I were to eat a steak, I would want it well done because I would want it to be crispier.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get you to have a well done steak.
Well, I am in on chicken is better than steak. I'm also so a lot of this with this format, we want to hear your guys' input. So we want to hear, are you in or out on these topics? And then also to give us some feedback of things that you want to discuss. You want us to discuss. Are you in, or are we in or out on things of your interest? We have a couple more. I made a note of it.
Got some hot opinions.
Okay,
out
so
there.
the second one are smartphones are making us smarter. Are you in or are you out?
I'm out. Definitely out on that one. I feel like we as a society have just become more and more reliant on our smartphones to do the work for us. And that goes for technology as a whole, I think, because we don't do any free thinking. Now everything is, well, I'll Google it. And then you depend on some sources' input to tell you if you should think this way or that way. And then, there's the other side of it where people don't have conversations anymore because they're glued to their phone. They're worried about what everybody else is doing and not actually worried about their own life and getting better themselves. So they're not actually investing in themselves. They're investing their time on nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, like that, you kind of went on a little rant there towards the end, not necessarily knowledge-based, just on social interactions, but
I think that all contributes to it, though.
I know, but people that are really social, that's not synonymous with being smarter. But I'm out on this also. I don't think, and you hit on the dependence of it. I was thinking about this, and Jarrett and I had talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, when I was younger, I had all my best friends' home numbers memorized. I had my grandparents, I had my aunts. I probably had 15 phone numbers memorized, and now I have your and mine, and maybe if I went into like a deep scratched my brain, I could come up with my home or my childhood home phone, but that's it. And I have a really great memory.
Yeah, I can still tell you all of my childhood friends' home phone number.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
I could tell you the digits of pi.
Yeah, I'm not gonna just start rattling them off because I don't know if they still have a home phone number at their parents' house. I don't know
anyone that has a home phone.
Yeah, so many people have gotten rid of them now because they never use them anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting though, like the nature of smartphone, smart even being in the name, and you have all this information at your fingertips, but it is a reliance. Like you don't have that information without it being on your person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are in the era of information. That's I guess the other side of the coin is we have infinite amounts of information and access to it because you can pull up your computer or your phone at any point in time and you can Google search anything, and you're going to find an article on it or, a page dedicated to it. And that's good in a sense, but in another sense, like it doesn't encourage people to really use their mind. And I think that's obviously not like, it's not telling of someone's intelligence if they know facts and so on and so forth. That just because you can rattle off a bunch of facts in a trivia competition, that doesn't impress me. Like just means that you've studied all these facts that honestly probably get you nowhere in life. And I'm horrible at trivia, but I don't really care.
Maybe that's our next in or out. Does being good at trivia mean that you're smart?
Right. I mean, there are people that are highly intelligent that are good at trivia. I'm not going to say just because you're good at trivia doesn't mean that, I'm not going to say that.
But much of it, I do think it's memory.
Right. But I think that, whenever the point of what I was getting at is that whenever you rely on somebody else to tell you everything, being the phone is what I'm referring to, that somebody, then your mind doesn't have to really turn its gears at all, and it just creates a mind of dependence. It doesn't create a mind that's constantly trying to, grow and develop and make advancements.
And the nature of like being smarter implies that something or someone is not as smart, is lesser smart. But if everyone has the same access to the information, everyone has a smartphone, then it's like an equal playing field, So it's like everyone is equally as smart or as equally as dumb.
Yeah. Everyone has the same access. So, yeah.
What they do with it is way different, obviously. Right. But Yeah, we have all the information at our fingertips, but
Yeah, in an era of where culturally we've decided that it's harder than ever to get ahead, it's also the same era where you have more access to information than anyone ever had in history. So I'll leave it at that.
but also like the access to information of conflicting sources and conflicting opinions.
Bad information as well.
Yeah, it's an overstimulus thing. Because you can Google the exact same question, or unless it's a definitive answer, quantitative.
Right. And the algorithm is also going to choose, what answers are going to be seen.
Gosh, we could get down a rabbit hole on this one.
Yeah.
But you're out. I'm
definitely out.
I'm out too. It makes me sad. Recently I've worked to do a lot better job. I hate the word trying. Like, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying. Like, you're either doing it or you're not. To limit my screen time, because my screen time is outrageous. It really is. And my work, is through social media, and it's through websites and stuff. Like, it's all screen related. So by the end of the day, I'm ready to chuck my phone out the window. But man, it is addicting. And I can recognize like how much I hate being on my phone. But I'm really actively working on limiting my screen time, especially like after hours. Once you're home, I try to leave I said the word. I leave my phone in the kitchen when we go to bed, or when we're watching TV or something. I'm trading on a small screen for a big screen. Love that. But
yeah, I think one of the biggest things with smartphones is the smartphone needs to be the tool. You are not the tool. You don't want the phone to be the one using you. You want to be using it.
Yeah, you want to manipulate the object, not the other way around.
And I'm on my phone like all day because I do so much work through my phone, texting, calling people, keeping up with everything. Also, communicating with you, and so much of your business is run online. So I'm on my phone all day long pretty much. If oftentimes I find it's in my left hand while I'm also holding the mouse to my computer in the other hand, and I have to set it down, to type or something. And I don't like that, but I realize at this point that it's a tool, and I have to use it. In today's day and age, we've become very dependent upon it. But, if you let it use you, then, that's where it starts to work against you.
Yeah. And I can admit that I've like leaned on that excuse of like, oh, it's my work. I work on my phone. I work on my laptop, so I should be on my phone all the time. I need to communicate with my team all the time. But I read something in a book, and they're like, if you audibly say like, what I'm doing right now is productive, or it is mindless, like a mindless way to eat away time. And if you say that out loud, then it's going to stop the action in your tracks. Because like when you reach for that phone, like you don't have anything to do, when you're standing in line at the grocery store and you just out of habit pick up your phone and open some social media app. I do that all the time. Like, you go to the bathroom, you're on your phone. You're like, if you say out loud, like, this is not a productive use of time. This is a mindless habit I'm contributing towards. So I'm actively working towards doing that more and more, and just calling myself out on my bullshit, because it's not contributing to the life I want. It's not contributing to the mental state I want, for sure, because although I try to curate the people that I follow to be productive and to be beneficial towards what I want, the algorithm, again, is going to bring me things that I don't want to see. And it's going, like, inevitably, those experiences that I'm, secondhand living through my phone are not going to replace the ones that I could be having in person. So that's something that I'm working on, but I definitely need to call myself out more often.
Yeah, for sure. What's our third, in or out?
Are you in or out? This is one I found online. Handwriting should stop being taught.
Have I been out on everything so far?
Yeah, you're a very negative man.
Because I know I don't really like being that guy, but I'm definitely out on that one as well.
See, I have tragic handwriting. It's bad. It looks, I guess I go against the stereotype there. Like, girls are supposed to have a lot better handwriting. Yours is much, much better than mine.
I also write a lot slower than you, to be fair.
Yeah, the first like word or so, I can make it look really nice, but my patience runs out mid-sentence of the first sentence, and then it's just, you just have to try your best in order to try to dictate it.
Sometimes it's like to a fault though for me, as far as the neatness of it, because like as I'm writing, like I will actually erase something if it doesn't look the way I want it to look, depending on what I'm doing. Like it's a little counterproductive at times.
Dare I say obsessive compulsive.
See, that's where my OCD comes into play, and it's a little counterproductive at times, but yeah.
As poor as my handwriting is, I'm still out on this. I think handwriting is important and it should be taught. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of jackaloons writing like I write.
Well, I mean,
my mother was an English teacher. Like, she's an elementary principal. Handwriting is extremely important. That was a skill that I think that I left in the ditch a long time ago.
There's so many different, like I can't regurgitate all the different things I've heard about it, but there's so many studies that have been shown that have shown that if you write something down, like handwrite something down on a piece of paper, that your mind, it actually sticks a lot better in your memory whenever you're doing that.
Yeah, I think it's muscle memory. But I also, like, I take handwritten notes. They're terrible. So
yeah,
my script is just poor.
Yeah, and if we continue just to rely on technology more and more, like if we eliminate handwriting, then you're eliminating a skill that has been known to humanity for I don't know how many hundreds of years. But then let's just say that computers go down. Let's say that we had some sort of cyber warfare attack and somebody literally can't communicate without having the computer power on, or even if you lose electricity, just basic things.
Well, and not even talking like apocalyptic like you are, just like that's an art form. Like I love seeing people that have beautiful handwriting. Like calligraphy I think is so cool, and that's something that, like, in a world where everyone is sort of like pushed through this factory setting of like being morphed into a very similar carbon copy of each other, like that's something that can distinguish you. That's something that is different, because otherwise we're all going to have the exact same iPhone font.
Right. There's no uniqueness to anybody if everybody's typing in Times New Roman.
Right.
I think that it is an art form in itself. Like I notice people's handwriting. If it's nice handwriting, like I guess a lot of times I'm not seeing the person write the note, if we get a thank you note in the mail or something. But I definitely comment anytime that I see somebody's handwriting and it's nice handwriting.
I literally commented on it yesterday. Shout out our friend Joe Beelan. Wrote me a letter. And
Joe has nice handwriting.
And I had commented as soon as I opened that letter. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And he wrote in all capital, and it was a very unique handwriting. So I'm like, it's something unique. It's fun.
Yeah. I can't remember what letter it was that he used that was a little unique, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I remember.
If I saw his handwriting again, it would stick out, amongst others, and I would know that was Joe's handwriting.
Yeah, I'm out on that. I think that handwriting's important, and I think it's something that sets you apart, something that makes you a little bit more you.
For sure. What about cursive handwriting?
So the purpose, I was told, of cursive handwriting when I was taught it eons ago was to save time. It does not save me time at all. It takes me triple the time.
Yeah. I remember not liking it because it essentially modified how I wanted to write, and I've eliminated it from.
I'll say I'm out on cursive handwriting.
Yeah. I still think
my mom's going to be so mad.
I still think it should be taught because it is in itself a whole other, art form, what we're discussing here. Yeah. Because there are people who write beautifully in cursive. I am not one of those people. It takes my handwriting, like I write fairly, I guess I would call it blocky. It's small, blocky,
all caps,
kind of inarticulate style handwriting. In all caps. And it's neat and concise, but it's not pretty. It's neat. But I think that people who can write like beautifully in cursive, that's an art form in itself as well. And I think that is a very cool skill.
It is a cool skill, yeah.
Like my grandpa had beautiful handwriting, and he wrote in cursive. And I think that is very, telling of that time, because at that time that was the norm. My grandma, we're unfortunately phasing out, I shouldn't say phasing out. We're losing those people that was just the norm for. They had beautiful cursive handwriting for the most part, because that's all they knew. That's what they were trained to do, and they did it all their life. So they, a lot of them just continue to get more and more efficient with it and better with it. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, no. I struggle to write in cursive. I really do. Like, could you write the entire alphabet right now in cursive?
Oof. I don't know.
I don't think that I could.
I think I would mess a couple up.
Like the
technical version of like the letter,
yeah,
whatever. I think there's a couple in there that are very strange.
Oh, God forbid I have to do a capital G put me through a tizzy.
I just thought about it like S's or a little, I can do an S though in my mind.
I can do an S because my maiden
like a capital name. S. But yeah,
so the G, if everyone can imagine what a cursive capital letter G looks like, I specifically remember really struggling with that one because my dad's name is Greg, and anytime I would forget to have him sign off on things for school, I would forge my dad's signature. And man, it was,
what's interesting
the G and Greg put me through.
Well, you just said, S, you would get that one because it's in your last name, but like the vast majority of people sign their name in cursive. Even if they don't write in cursive, they sign their name in cursive.
Yeah, because it's forced. Like signature that's interesting too. Like signature equates with cursive.
Yeah, it's kind of synonymous.
Because it says, signee's signature, signee, print.
Right, exactly. Like it's intended to be a unique thing. I think that there's probably something to that, like psychologically.
Yeah, and just like for forgery, shout out. Sorry, Dad. Sorry, at my high school, like field trips and stuff.
Because it forces you to use your very unique, genetic nuances. Because if you try to forge somebody's true signature, whenever it's it's gonna have slight nuances to it that you can't replicate in real time. Like you're not gonna drag your pen and let up on it at certain times, and there's gonna be faintness to certain aspects of your signature.
I've never had two signatures look the same though.
But if somebody knows what they're looking for,
yeah.
Somebody that's a forgery specialist would be able to look at a signature and say, okay, that person did not, that is not that person's signature because they let up on their eyes or whatever the situation is.
Yeah. They would have caught me red-handed. It was never anything bad. It was usually like, can I go on this field trip?
Yeah. I actually don't think I ever forged my parents' signature. Unless they told me to.
That is the
like
least surprising thing.
There was probably a couple of times when they like told me to, like if it was just something that was kind of meaningless. But I don't think I've ever forged.
I bet you felt really grimy after, huh?
I think it was probably like a high for me.
Can I do it again? Yeah, I bet that was wild.
Heard you like Bad Boys.
Yeah, Brett is as straight edge as they come. You're a good guy. Happy Valentine's Day. Are you in or out?
I initially said that I'm definitely in, or at least that was my knee-jerk reaction. But I guess to be fair, we're very close as a couple, but we really don't make a big deal out of Valentine's Day. But in my defense, like you don't really care to. It's not like I don't want to put forth the effort, but like you don't like nice restaurants. You don't really get a lot of utility out of flowers.
That is so funny because I love the way you word it. Like I don't get utility out of it.
She just doesn't really.
Yeah, I mean, like
I bought them before, and you said you don't need to get me flowers again. Like that's not. I don't.
And I mean that like genuinely. Like I don't mean that as like a guilt trip, like a wink, wink. You still should. Right. I think that, you would find more value in flowers.
I definitely do. Like I actually kind of enjoy getting them, and it gives me a little bit of a sense of satisfaction. But I'm like, well, I can save myself $60, then I won't get you.
They cost $60?
Well, it depends how nice of flowers you get. If you get a bunch of roses,
well, that confirms it. I'm glad you've been saving. You can cash me a check instead. I'll invoice you for the past 7 Valentine's days.
This is the most lucrative day for florist shops in the entire year.
Woof. And it's going to die. Imagine that's what...
It's going to die.
This is what I imagine every time. Okay, now that I have a dollar amount, because I've clearly not been in the flower...
That's just, there's a lot of variables there. It could be way more than that.
That's obscene. Clearly not in the flower market. But to me, that is like if you were to take $60 and you light it on fire and it just slowly, the flame just like eats away at it like a candle over the span of like a week.
Now we just opened up a can of worms with a
Are
whole
you in
nother
or out on
topic.
flowers?
Yeah. There's gonna be some people that are adamantly against what you're saying.
My toes are cold. I'm gonna have to put them under you. I know, and that is.
My mother loves flowers. Like if you get her flowers, she will adore them.
Did you get her flowers for Valentine's Day?
She and Dad left home, so I wanted her to enjoy flowers fresh. So I'm going to get her flowers whenever she's home.
Oh,
I am.
That's sweet. Yeah, he always gets his mom flowers.
They went out for Valentine's Day, so I'm not going to have them show up whenever nobody's home and they're just going to sit in the garage or something.
Yeah. That's sweet, though. You're very consistent. I will say the best Valentine's present I've ever gotten from Brett was when we first started dating. So my niece Holloway at the time was 2 years old, 2 or 3.
Was she that little?
She was little.
That seems like yesterday.
So she's 10. So she was 3 years old.
It would have been like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, it would have been 7 years ago. So my niece Holloway was 3 years old. And when Brett and I were dating, it was one of those things like she just called Brett her boyfriend all the time. Like, that's her boyfriend, not mine. And it was the cutest thing ever. So the first Valentine's Day we spent together we were in college, but he had flowers delivered to my brother's house addressed to Holloway. The 3-year-old, the toddler that called him her boyfriend. And that was the cutest thing. I'm going to have to find the video of her carrying flowers around because she was so smitten. And that was like the best present that you could have given me. The flowers to Holloway. That was so sweet. Still one of my favorite things ever.
I wish she was still that little.
I know. She's so grown up now.
Yeah. Makes me sad.
I know. I can't believe flowers cost $60. Sheesh.
It's life, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned like the fancy restaurants. That is just like we had talked about in a previous episode, like being overeaters because as children we were like told to clean our plates, to finish what you were eating. I think that kind of contributed to it. But like fancy restaurants just make me anxious to this day. I feel so out of place.
And you don't like the foods that they have.
And yeah, if I'm I'm more of like a bar food scene and the portions are better. Again, I'm an overeater. So I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that you're going to pay like an obscene amount of money and get something that is so small and has like drizzled condiments over it. It honestly pisses me off.
Not everything at a nice restaurant is small.
It feels that way.
I mean, there are certain things.
And typically I only like the salad, and it's always a weird salad. I'm like, just give me straight up cucumbers ranch and some tomatoes. Yeah, some mixed greens. You don't need just a hunk of iceberg lettuce and you drizzled some weird mustard over it. Like, let's just be straight with me and charge me $6 for it, not $42.
We'll get Gordon Ramsay on the show and he's going to rip you apart with the culinary arts.
I know. I am an idiot sandwich.
I mean, if you ask me, while I have been to restaurants where it costs way more than what it should have for what I got, generally speaking, if you go to a nice restaurant, you get what you pay for. And if you enjoy food and you like food, a more diverse, what's the word I'm looking for? If you have a more diverse palate than what you do, you probably enjoy, if you're not just, obviously if you can't afford to go and buy a nice steak, then you're not going to enjoy yourself because you're going to be thinking the whole time, like, I can't believe I just spent this money on a nice steak. But if you go out to buy a nice steak and, money is not on top, it's not top of mind and you're just enjoying the meal, generally speaking, it is going to be worth the money.
That being said, I did recently read a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, and it's written by, he was a general manager of several, like 4-star restaurants, just incredible places. And hearing the nuts and bolts of like the service of it and the business of it, that made me, I'm like,
it's an experience.
I told Brett, I was like, if it weren't for the food, I would really want to experience that, but I don't feel like I would enjoy the food. Yeah. And I think that it would be kind of
And if a waiter,
offensive
if
if
a
I
waiter
didn't
or
like the food.
if a waiter or waitress is worth the salt, then they are, they'll make it a rounded out experience. They will, they're trained at that level to do a job, do a great job to where it's not just, the food that you're being served. They'll be able to recommend, a drink to go with a certain food, or they'll be able to make recommendations based on what your preferences are. It goes beyond just the actual meal itself. It's an experience.
Yeah, which I got to like. That was the cool part about reading that book, and I really respected that. So I can respect the business and the service side of it. I love that, like wanting to take care of the person and give them an experience they'll never forget. I, for one, just don't want to be the receiving side. I would like to be able to give someone that experience.
Yeah, and it's not like I do that often at all. I mean, how often do we go to a nice restaurant?
Well, I kind of hold you back. I feel like if it weren't for me, you would do it more often.
Yeah, I mean, we would probably do it, definitely a few times a year, whereas now we probably do it
never just on our own.
Yeah, I mean, maybe once a year if we're taking, like your parents out for dinner, my parents out for dinner or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was our first episode of Are You In, Are You Out? I'm intrigued to hear what you guys have to say, what your opinions are, and I want to know what you guys want to hear us talk about in future episodes of this. You in or you out?
Let's hear it.
All right. We will talk to you later. Thanks so much, guys.
See ya.